Hey YA nerds, Reading Rue here to talk to you about another book. Today we are talking about Queer There and Everywhere. This is by Sarah Prager. It's 272 pages, so super short, and it only came out in May 2017, so it's really not that old. I don't know why no one has ever talked about this book, at least no one in like my circles. It's fantastic. So I'll read to you guys the plot. This is from Goodreads as per the usual. World history has been made by countless lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer individuals, and you've never heard of many of them. Queer author and activist Sarah Prager delves deep into the lives of 23 people who fought, created, and loved on their own terms. From high-profile figures like Abraham Lincoln and Eleanor Roosevelt, yes, you heard that right, Abraham Lincoln and Eleanor freaking Roosevelt, to the trailblazing, gender-ambiguous Queen of Sweden and a bisexual blues singer who didn't make it into your history books. These astonishing true stories uncover a rich queer heritage that encompasses every culture in every era. By turns hilarious and inspiring, the beautifully illustrated Queer There and Everywhere is for anyone who wants the real story of the queer rights movement. Sorry for the stumbles. Heard about this book on an email. I get a lot of emails while I'm working at the library, and they tell me a lot about different books that are coming out. This one happened to be on my radar. It's a phenomenal book. I never thought I would find anything like this in my life. It's incredible. Everyone should read this book and revel in how amazing all the history really is. Truthfully, I hated history in high school, probably because it was boring to me, or maybe it's because my 7th grade history teacher was an asshole. Who knows? But reading up on queer history like this, it's cleared my skin, and now my crops are thriving, essentially. Sarah gives such a great insight into each person she talks about in the book. All 23 of them are amazing, historically well-known people who happen to live a not-so-straight life. And 9 times out of 10, their not-so-straightness is swept under the rug. We see it throughout history all the time. We see it when, you know, archaeologists uncover tombs that have gay lovers in it, and they just say, oh, they were just really great friends, because being queer is not normal, so people don't view it that way, or society didn't view it that way. A lot of times, you know, we get a heteronormative view of life through history, and it wasn't that way at all. I've had people ask me, like, I don't understand where all these terms are coming from all of a sudden. They've always been here. All these genders, sexualities, all of it, gender expressions, they've been here forever. But it's only recently that we've been able to come up with terms that define who we are, and, you know, tell people exactly where we fit on this spectrum, sexuality, as well as, you know, gender identity, etc., etc. You know, this book, it gave me a will to live, essentially. I need more books like it, and it's amazing too that the woman who made this book, Sarah Prager, has also created an app called Quist, hashtag not promoted by Quist, but you guys should download it because it gives you daily queer history facts, which is really great. I've never loved history so much, although my one friend Dana will be mad at me that I've said that. Truthfully, Dana, if you ever watch this, when you talk about history, it's the bee's knees. You always make it very fascinating and interesting. That's probably why you are a history teacher, and you are teaching our youth how to enjoy history. I wish I had a teacher like you when I was in school, because maybe I would enjoy it more. You know, I feel I owe it to my queer history buddies here to own this book and display it, even though I'm trying really hard not to buy more books. I actually got it from the library. I have 0 room on my bookcases, as I've told you guys before. So, but I'm definitely going to pick this up soon. It just, you know, depends on when I have money in the bank from the last time I went book shopping. But definitely go get it. It's great. I highly recommend it. And the other great thing I really like about it is you can skip whole chapters. It doesn't affect you at all. I mean, you should read about all of these people, But if you don't want to read about Abraham Lincoln, let's say you know about him already, or you don't want to read, they even talk about Lily Elba in here. Oh, there she is. If you don't want to read about her, you can skip it. They also, which is really phenomenal, use the right pronouns for everybody. They talk about different people, you know, throughout history, like I said earlier, we didn't really have the terms to kind of discuss where we fit in on the spectrum. So a lot of the times, the author actually takes a small liberty in using the right gender terms for some of these people. Based on like what we know throughout history, she kind of assumes like what they would have identified as, using their own words. It's not like she's misgendering them or anything like that. So it's phenomenal. Pick it up, really do it. So for tropes, unfortunately, I've said this before, but with nonfiction, it's hard to kind of assign tropes to this. Again, I'm going to use my own tropes that I've kind of come up with using, you know, other people's definitions of YA lit, as well as my own stuff, whatever I've researched or heard from other librarians. So, for the tropes, I'm going to say wrecking ball endings, love at first sight, a beautiful first line. For my rating, 11 out of 10. Would read 1,000 times again. It's such a great book. I recommended it to a bunch of different people who are total history buffs, including my friend Dana. I should just dedicate this whole video to her. Dana, I told her to read it. She actually cracked it open and went straight to the Abraham Lincoln chapter because she could not believe that he was in this book about being someone who's queer. Spoiler alert, he is. There's tons of like historical things backing it up. There's tons of notes in the back, so she really enjoyed it. Okay. Anyway, for my favorite part, I'm gonna read to you the first 3 paragraphs of the first chapter. This chapter is about Elagabalus. I cannot pronounce her name to save my life. She was born in 203 AD and died in 222 AD, so she really wasn't that old, only 19. And there's, I love this too. So you get a picture of the person they're talking about at the beginning of the chapter. You know, their name, when they died, and then at the bottom there's always a TLDR, which is great. So her TLDR is the most scandalous teenage Roman emperor you've never heard of. And they're right, I've never heard of this person before in my life, so I was like fascinated. It was your average day at the stadium. Togas, Olympic-style games, a decent amount of day drinking, and Zodicus, an accomplished athlete, was busy kicking ass in crowd favorites like sprinting and wrestling. Suddenly, mid-competition, he was snatched away from the games by a band of thugs who'd been sent by the palace. Turns out, Zodicus was being summoned by the emperor, Elagabalus, who was always on the lookout for more beautiful men. Zodicus was rumored to be well endowed, and the emperor wanted to meet him. Upon arriving at the palace, Zodicus was adorned with garlands and immediately given a coveted position as a cubicularius, a kind of butler in the emperor's private quarters. A butler. When he was presented to the ruler who had beckoned him, Zodicus saluted, "My Lord Emperor, hail!" Lengthening her neck in a feminine pose, Elagabalus shot a lustful look at Zodicus and said, "Call me not Lord, for I am a lady." So, she's phenomenal. She comes from Syria. You could read all about her. And she conquers Rome. And she rules it for, I think, about 3 years. But she is a trans woman. And amazing. She gets overthrown not because she's trans, because we all know Rome was kind of okay with some of these things. She gets overthrown because she's too extravagant. And I think she just keeps throwing wild parties, and they're like, enough! Unfortunately though, spoiler alert, when she does get overthrown, I guess I can't really say spoiler alert, this happened 1800 years ago. When she gets overthrown, they murder her and all of her husbands and wives, which she had many of, which is very sad. But when you're overthrowing an empire, you kind of have to destroy everyone, because if you don't kill all of the wives or husbands, they can take the throne back. So they did that with her, poor thing. She is great. I loved reading about her. Her whole chapter was probably my favorite chapter. It stuck with me throughout the entire book. But like I said, there are a lot of really interesting people in here. Reading about, like, Joan of Arc was in here, which I kind of knew a little bit about her. I'm sure everyone does. Frida Kahlo was in here, which I only just found out recently she's bisexual. Fantastic. I did not expect Eleanor Roosevelt. I really didn't expect her. It's such a great read. We even talk about Alan Turing in here. I love that they covered Harvey Milk. Oh, I love Harvey Milk. And even George Takei, whom I also didn't know. Like, we all know George Takei is gay. He's like a really big gay icon right now. But I didn't know he only just recently came out. I kind of, probably because I'm not up on Star Trek, I kind of assumed he's been out for a while. I had no idea. But I love George Takei. He's phenomenal. I'm glad I got to read about his life, as short as it was. And yes, every chapter, you know, is about maybe 5 to 10 pages. So it's really like a brief summary of different people. Seriously, pick it up. Put it on your shelf. Make it into a thing. Read the book. Learn more about history. I never thought I would ever say that in my life. Learn more about history. Read the book. It's great. For my age range, I'm actually going to say 15, 16, 17 plus. Maybe you can get away with like a 14-year-old reading it, but I do think that's the perfect age range for this book. They do use a lot of like different terms that a lot of younger kids might not know, so it's good for that age range. Again, they also talk about queer history. I do think we need to talk about queer history more at younger ages, but as far as like a parent being concerned, I don't know why you would be, but 15, 16, 17 I think is excellent. Perfect age. That's all I have to say about this book. I could talk about this book for years, I feel like. I've already shoved it in several of my friends' faces that they should be reading it. I just shoved it into the face of my little sister and her 3 friends. And hi friends. Hopefully you guys are all watching this too. And that's it for this episode. So if you like what you see, again, just make sure you subscribe. Press that little subscribe button. You'll get notifications when I update, which will be every other Thursday. And I guess I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Peace out, YA nerds.